All right. Well, hey, today, there's the deal. The topic, the Bible topic for today is the corruption of mankind. And of course, that's what leads to the story of Noah, which we're going to talk about next week. But here's what's happening. Remember, we've got these two creation stories at the beginning of Genesis. And the first one, it's clear that God makes man after his own image. Some translations say under his own shadow. And he makes them male and female. Now, the interesting thing about that we didn't talk about last time is that story is very clear that they are equal to each other. That he makes them male and female in his image, under his shadow, that they're equal. Then he makes one single man, this is a different story, makes one single man out of the dust of the earth, and because that single man becomes lonely, he takes the rib and creates the woman to be a companion to the man. And there the story is a little bit more slanted towards the woman being subservient to the man. Well, it's a patriarchal society, so obviously you got to get that in there somewhere. And then the whole temptation thing occurs, and the woman falls even further in ranking. And that continues as time goes on. But we remember the first creation story where man was created in the image and likeness of God. That these are separate. I mean, according to tradition, it's not two conflicting stories where one they're actually were written by two different groups of people. One written by the scribes in the northern kingdom, one in the but really that's not important because it's all blended together in the Bible. And so you've got two events, and as far as the Hebrews were concerned, those were two events. Men are created, and it doesn't say there's a number of them that are created. It doesn't say how many, but there are a number of them created. Then Adam is created and placed in the garden. So this is, traditionally, what's happened is Adam is created as like the chosen one. This is like really kind of important to the whole Hebrew tradition. That Adam is created as the chosen one. Then Eve is his wife. And then when they have the whole incident with the tree, or the fruit of the tree of life, things kind of fall apart. And they're sent out of their garden. And now you've got Adam and Eve who have children. And by the way, they have man children. And so then those children look for wives in this other group of people who were actually the first men and women to be created.
And they're outside the garden.
They were outside the garden the whole time. Well, it doesn't actually say that, but that's what you have to assume, right? So they have this community of men, and now the chosen people go to this community of men, and the sons of Adam and Eve go and get women from there, and they have children. That explains the whole business about when people always ask about, well, if you just got Adam and Eve, I mean, how do you populate the whole earth with just Adam and Eve? And I mean, the nightmares of inbreeding, really would be horrible. Well, there's a whole other pool of men over here. Right? But here's what happens. It says, when corrupt men increased upon the surface of the earth, and sons and daughters were born to them, then the sons of God admired the daughters of men who were beautiful, and they took to themselves wives from all they desired. So here the story is very clear. You got two groups. You got the sons of God, and you have the sons of men. Literally speaking, the only sons of God are the ones that come directly from Adam and Eve. And the sons of men, those are the ones that are corrupt. Now, of course, the sons of God have to marry into this family of men. Now, of course, on the face of it, you can say, all right, well, it's wrong-headed on the face of it, but it is part of the Hebrew tradition. We are the chosen people. We are separate from the rest of the world. And this tradition continues on through all the teachings that it's important for the Hebrew people to remain separate and apart from. And how they do that is, of course, with customs and laws and the idea that we need to keep ourselves apart from these corrupt people. Now, the fact is that there is a spiritual aspect to this that has some merit in saying that in my associations, I want to associate and I want to keep company and have society with the people that have my same values, because I don't want to have my values adulterated or corrupt by this other group of people. Now, there's something to be said for that idea, but the problem with the idea is that it says, just like it's saying here, those are the corrupt people. We are the children of God. They're the children of men. They're separate from us. And of course, this is really cause for conflict. This is at least explanation for why, because this is written after these things are already happened. This is written as explanation for why things are the way that they are. Right? So the reason that there's conflict is because those people are corrupt. But here's what happens. The children of God become corrupt because it's really simple. They mix with the children of men. So, consequently, the ever-living, that's God, he says, my spirit shall not call to man forever, for he is sinful flesh, but they shall have 120 years. So here's like the explanation as to why, before God was like speaking directly to people. He's having these direct conversations, but he stops. He says, I'm going to stop calling to men. So the sons of God came to the daughters of men, and they bore to them mighty men, who were the men of renown of old. So this is that, going back to this, there were, in those days, there were giants in the earth, so to speak. And they were the offspring of the sons of God and the sons of men. And by the way, this gives a lot of material for the UFO people to work with. So, all right, but the ever-living saw that the sin of man increased upon the earth, and that every effort of the thought of his heart was to promote sin. Every effort of the thought of man's heart was to promote sin every day. And the ever-living sighed for the doings of men upon the earth, and it grieved his heart. And the Lord therefore said, I will sweep every man whom I created from off the surface of the earth, from man to beast and reptile and the birds of the sky, for I regret that I made them. But Noah found favor in the presence of the ever-living. So now, there was some kind of catastrophe that occurred in history, some big catastrophe in this area where these teachings, these traditions came from. Many people want to argue about this idea, but there was some kind of a big event. Some kind of a big event where a lot of people were killed, wiped off the face of the earth. And so, this is the explanation. The reason that people are going to be wiped off the face of the earth is because God is not happy with them. He regrets that He made them, so He wipes them all out. Because what else could explain, if you think about, you have a world that God's in charge, and all of a sudden this huge event occurs and almost everybody dies, how do you explain it? Well, you have to say, well, God's mad. God's upset. He's washing his hands of it. Right? That's why. He got upset, and this is why it happened. But it's interesting what he says here is that every thought in the heart of man was to promote sin. Now, we remember what we're talking about as far as original sin. That original sin is separation. Original sin is not, it's not Eve giving the apple to Adam. It's the thought, it's the consciousness that occurs upon eating the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's what occurs after that, because after eating the fruit, then you have awareness of good and bad and dark and light and judgment. Therefore, separation. So original sin is separation. So this passage where it says that what's going on is man promotes separation every day. And this is what we see in the world. This is what we do. We judge. We do everything we can to convince ourselves that we really are all alone. It's us against the world. The return to God, which is what this Bible really is all about the story of the return to God, to return back to that Eden consciousness, is releasing those ideas of separation, which is the only sin that there really is. The only sin that really exists is us thinking that we're separate from each other and separate from God. And so this next event that happens, we'll talk about this next week, this thing about Noah. But the idea is always to remember, what I always remember when I'm reading the Bible is when it says sin, what it's talking about is the sin against the first commandment. That there's only one God. Now, we haven't got that, it hasn't been revealed to us yet what that is. But the sin is, there's one God and you'll have no other gods before me. This whole idea is, the sin of man is to make other things more important than God. In other words, things, because God is the all of everything, that means taking different things and making them more important than the unity of all life. Separation. That's all for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you embellish